بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: إذا أردت أن تذكر عيوب غيرك فاذكر عيوب نفسك. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that if and when you feel the desire to remember or to point out the flaws of other people, then make sure and remind yourself of your own flaws and your own shortcomings. In this beautiful hadith, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ describes to us an action plan, a solution to a problem that all human beings will experience. He begins by saying "idha," which in the Arabic language can mean either if or when, right? So it can be either conditional or it can be certain, right? It's a conditional statement. If or when. Now, what's the beauty in using the word "idha" here is that the Prophet ﷺ is saying that if applies to if you feel, right, the need to point out flaws in other people. But for some people, the habit is so deep and so burrowed into their heart that the Prophet ﷺ is saying when you feel the need, right? And so this hadith becomes like custom tailored, custom fit. And we have to look and see ourselves. Are we people who are constantly pointing out flaws in others, right? Or are we people who at sometimes, we get frustrated, get annoyed, and we look up and we try to find flaws in other people? Well, the beautiful part about it is that the Prophet ﷺ gives the same solution to both people. Whether or not you're a constant person who points out other people's flaws, or you're occasional, the Prophet ﷺ said the solution is the same. What did he say? He said, إِذَا أَرَدْتَ, if you feel the desire, if you feel that strong need or desire. And it's very interesting because you'll see that sometimes people who point out flaws in other people, it begins to take over their conversational topics. Wherever they go, all they could do is focus on the flaws of others. They could talk about other people. And so it's almost like there's this innate human desire, this desire of the nafs, of the lower self, that just starts to grow and grow and grow. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying, when you feel that desire, when you feel that need, right? The need of what? إِذَا أَرَدْتَ أَن تَذْكُرْ عُيُوبَ غَيْرِكَ. If you feel that desire to remember the shortcomings and mistakes and flaws of other people, what does he say? فَذْكُرْ. It's a very strong, it's a very authoritative reminder. Remind yourself. فَذْكُرْ. It's a command, right? Stop everything and remember what? عُيُوبَ نَفْسِكَ. Your own shortcomings. The Prophet ﷺ here is telling us that there is no time to focus on the shortcomings of other people before you have mastered and fixed and solved your own shortcomings. Now, how do we balance this with the hadith where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, if you see something wrong, then correct it with your hand. If you can't correct it with your hand, then correct it with your tongue, meaning speak out against it. If you can't correct it with that, then at least feel that it's wrong in your heart, and that is the lowest level of iman. How do we balance these two? Well, if you look at the two hadith together, they're not mutually exclusive. A person can still try to correct a wrong, but the Prophet ﷺ here is saying before you try to go and point and correct other people's mistakes, make sure you remember that you yourself have mistakes. Make sure to remember that you yourself have shortcomings, and that you need to address those shortcomings as well as help other people and uplift each other. See, when we try to address shortcomings in other people, we have to worry about the perspective and the approach that we're taking. Are we coming down on them like we are above them and they are our subordinates? Or are we coming at them at the same level, saying, listen, this is a team effort. We have to fix these issues that you and I have. I notice that I'm doing this and I notice that you're doing this. Let's try to work on it and get ourselves better to be better people. And this is the beauty of nasiha in the deen of Islam. The Prophet ﷺ said, ad-dinu nasiha, that this religion is nothing more than sincere advice. That nasiha is an art form. Giving advice is an art form. So we'll talk about a couple things. The first thing is that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is giving us this hadith, and one of his main men, Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, a baller companion of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, as they all were, he has a very famous narration where he says that if you find that one of your brothers or sisters is doing something incorrectly, give them 70 excuses as to why they might be doing that thing incorrectly. So let's say you go to the masjid for prayer, and at the time of the iqamah, where everybody is standing up to go pray, you find people leaving. Instead of judging them, calling them out, maybe think to yourself, subhanAllah, maybe the person has a medical emergency, or maybe there's some sort of emergency at the home where there's a fire or something, or maybe there's something, or maybe they already prayed, maybe they're travelers and they already combined and prayed. There's a ton of excuses that you can come up with. So Umar ibn Khattab said, think of 70 excuses. And this isn't just like a feel-good statement. Try it literally. Try to think of 70 excuses. What will this do? This will smooth over the relationship between the brothers and the sisters in our community. But the other side of this equation, brothers and sisters, is that when somebody does come to give you advice, when somebody does try to offer you a solution to fixing one of the uyub ghayrika or uyub nafsika, the shortcomings of you or of me, then we should take it and we should thank them for it. You know, the same person who said this 70 excuses athar, this narration, Umar ibn Khattab, you know what else he said? He said that there is nothing sweeter to me, there is nothing that I love more than when someone comes to me and gives me advice or criticism. So look at the balance even in the life of Umar. He's saying, look, give people excuses. But when it comes to himself, he's saying what? When I get advice, I love it. So keep giving me advice. Keep telling me how to get better. And this is the perspective, brothers and sisters, that the Prophet ﷺ is saying. That instead of focusing on other people, focus on fixing yourself. So when people come to you, don't say, hey, didn't you hear the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that if you want to fix somebody else, then fix yourself first? No. If someone comes to you, then you say, thank you, Jazakallah khair, I needed to hear this, and I'm going to improve based on that. But if you are constantly seeing flaws in other people, then make sure that you give them the excuses, and then also offer them that mutual advice, that team effort, that we got to fix ourselves together, inshallah ta'ala. And with this, we can become a better community. You know, one of the things that splinters communities the most is the judgment and the lack of ability to take nasiha. I think these are the two things that splinter us a lot. Number one is that people judge people left and right based on what they look like, based on what they talk like, whether or not they wear hijab, how long their beard is, if they have tattoos. Islam is for everybody. We cannot limit this religion to people that we feel only comfortable with. It's for everybody. And if you don't feel comfortable with a certain culture or a certain look, then that is the problem on your own end, not on the problem, not on the issue or the problem of Islam. And so we have to accept everybody. The Prophet ﷺ used to accept alcoholics because why? Islam is a spiritual hospital, and what kind of hospital would kick out people who are ill? So with this spiritual hospital, we have to open our doors. But the second part is to be excited when someone gives you advice, to be happy, and to think of it as a very valuable tool to make yourself better. And so with that, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to become better. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to look past other people and to see our own flaws and to see the advice that people give us. As Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah, he said that only a fool would discount the advice of a person based on the person giving the advice, right? So we want to make sure that we look past all of that and take the advice. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to practice all that has been said and heard. Jazakumullah khairan wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.